Hello, everybody. Welcome. Tonight, our topic is what's the magic equation? Taking care of me equals socially competent children. Um, Let me just move some things around on my screen. Okay. I just wanted to mention before we jump into things tonight that this session is actually part of a connected series. So Tammy and I think it's a couple months ago, Tammy, we presented session one called The Trickle-Down Effect to administrators and program leaders. We consider that sort of like the first part of this series. And the idea behind the trickle-down effect workshop was on supporting adults' emotional regulation at a program level. In tonight's session, the magic equation, it kind of picks up where we left off. You don't have to have attended the first session, but I just wanted to mention this in case you did. But session two tonight picks up where we left off, and this session, this information is intended for those of you working directly with children. My name is Maggie Gale. I'm one of the coaches from ECPL. And I think as we get started here today, you'll find Tammy and I are not the most formal presenters. So I just wanted to mention this. Please feel free to unmute and ask questions, to talk to us in the chat. But you'll also notice up on the screen, we have our email addresses. So if you have any questions after our time today, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to talk to you later on. But also another thing I wanted to mention is that Tammy and I have both been teachers. And so many of the strategies that we are going to be introducing today, many of the concepts that we're going to be talking about are things that we actually did ourselves in the classroom or are coming from some of our experience working with teachers as coaches. Tammy, go ahead.
And hello, everyone. As Maggie mentioned, I am Tammy Notter, and just wanted to say this is my 44th year in the field of early childhood. And another thing you need to note as other things come up, as a side hustle for my evening work, I am a fitness instructor and a yoga instructor certified for both of those for adults and children. So hence, when you see some of the activities about breathing and other things, they come legitimately from some other work that I do. And I just want to remind all of you, we have been enjoying seeing your names and your job roles in the work that you do. So feel free, if you haven't put your name or your job position in the chat, feel free so all your colleagues can see all the work that you do as well.
Okay, so jumping into things, this is our magic equation. Tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about the components up on your screen. We have the importance of adult emotional regulation and then intentional planning and strategies, and that will equal socially competent children. So what we're going to be doing tonight as we're talking is that when we jump into the strategy section and some of the activities that we recommend, you will see these little icons. So we have the man here who represents adult emotional regulation. You have the woman with her clipboard, which represents intentional planning and strategies, and you will see those connected to some of the activities as we progress. Here's our first one.
And let's begin. The most important component in the classroom is really you coming in, feeling really grounded for the day and feeling like you're ready for the day. So one thing that you might want to do in the mornings when you first wake up, or maybe even do this with the children when you enter your classroom, is thinking about breathing. And this particular form of breath, I'm calling ocean breath. It's also known as belly breathing. And that's where you really inhale from your core area or your diaphragm area, and you exhale and release the air out. So the inhale comes in through the nose, and the exhale, especially when you're doing these things for children, can be a loud mouth exhale. So for example, we'll breathe in through our nose and we'll exhale loud. But how I want you to visualize this is wherever you are, if you're standing or you're seated, have your feet firmly on the ground. That's your grounding. And if you can help the children too, as maybe when they're sitting and wanting to do breath, where their bottoms are grounded on the ground. So your feet are grounded, you're relaxing your shoulders. If you feel that it would be good for you and appropriate and safe right now, feel free to close your eyes. And as your eyes are closed, make sure your belly's relaxed, everything's relaxing, and you feel your feet grounded. And imagine that the tide from the ocean is coming in, the waves are coming in. So take that nice deep inhale through your nose. And then the tide is going out. Exhale, open mouth breath. Your inhales can be a little shorter and your exhales can be a little longer. Let's do another one. Inhale, exhale. Just one more to get our training really started on a good, calm foot. Inhale, waves coming in. Exhale, waves going out. And this is one of the more, a very simple breath, and you'll learn some others later on in the training, but a really nice one to keep all of us grounded as we do our work with families and children.
We're hoping that when you leave today, that you leave with an understanding of that connection between adults' emotional regulation and how that can impact children's emotional regulation and ultimately the development of their social competence. Our other objective or learning intention for today is to really leave you with a lot of different strategies that you can use. So again, these are some strategies that Tammy and I have used, or we've worked with other teachers that have recommended them. And we really just want we want you to have a variety. So some things will be simple things you can do right away, and other things that maybe will take a little bit of planning.
And then before we move on, feel free to write any questions in the chat, and I'll be glancing to look and see if I can answer them directly or even at the end. So here we are. It's always great when you're working with a group to make sure we have a common language and that everyone understands definitions and words we're going to use in the same way. And so we're looking at social competence, and I'm just going to exactly read it so it'll resonate for all of us. Social competence refers to a person's ability to get along with others. And I think all of you are so familiar with that in your daily work. And Maggie's probably going to bring up some things to show you. Hopefully a lot of you are using the Illinois Early Learning Project website. They have a tip sheet in there, and it's called the Social Competence Checklist. And it's just a really great guide for us as the adults working with children to look at all these different identifiers that are children able to exhibit, or are we noticing them? Their individual traits, social skills, how they're getting along with their peers or working with their peers, and how we're interacting with them. And hopefully some of you already have seen this tip sheet in the Illinois Early Learning Project, or hopefully will spur you on to go in there and look at all the marvelous tip sheets. But this one in particular is social competence checklist.
And I just shared the link in the chat if you want to click on that so you can look at this at your at your leisure.
And then I think there we go, Maggie. I think we could go on to the next slide there. And here's other common language to think about. Self-awareness. Here's a definition that we like. Conscious knowledge of one's own character, our motives and desires. And we realize we're ongoing as adults, probably always retapping into our own self-awareness and remembering that children are too as they grow. Co-regulation, when someone can find and maintain regulation with the support and assistance of an outside person. All of you have the power to be wonderful co-regulators for the children. And then hopefully with ourselves working with children and co-regulating, it leads more to the end result of self-regulation. When someone can find and maintain regulation by themselves as a result of countless co-regulating experiences. So the more experiences they have with us co-regulating, that can help transform into their own self-regulation. And Maggie will move us forward.
Thank you, Tammy. As a quick reminder, I know some of this information is going to be familiar to many of you, but as a quick reminder before we move forward, we just want to remember that children learn social skills just like they learn everything else through a process of modeling and practice. And that modeling and practice happens with caregivers and adults. And we want to be teaching these skills all day, every day, and embedding the social emotional practices into our classrooms and into your classroom activities and into the structures. And really the key reminder here for us is that children need caregivers to learn social emotional competence. Right. So sometimes we forget, I don't want to say we forget, but sometimes we need to be reminded that children do not learn these skills in isolation, and they don't come into our classrooms already learning these skills. They really are dependent on adults. And again, we're going to talk a little bit more about this and that process of co-regulation as we move forward. But one way that we really can prepare and support children to develop their emotional needs is through that social competence checklist. So if we look through there and we're seeing like, okay, where some of these skills we're seeing in our classrooms, some not, that can give us a good indication that maybe we need to focus a little bit more intentionally and strategically on teaching those skills throughout the day. We also want to remember that the earlier that, like if we're noticing that we're seeing some underdevelopment of social competence, that we want to intervene earlier than later. So this is one of my favorite graphics to use when we're talking about brain development. I think it's such a good representation of advocating and in intervening early. What we have in the blue line, this represents the brain's ability to change in response to experiences. And then the orange line indicates the amount of effort that change requires. So if you'll notice with the ages on the bottom here, we have the younger ages here. We have that greater flexibility for the brain to change and respond and less effort required. But if you even notice, like if you look at just even the change, that drop in flexibility from the ages of 2 to 10, right? So like the sooner we're able to intervene, the easier this whole process can be. And I want to just make this very clear. Like it's not impossible to learn skills later. It's just it just gets much more difficult. Okay, and we also want to remember that as children come into our classrooms and our programs, they come in with a wide variety of experiences, and some of those are positive and some of those are negative. And so we may have children that are entering our programs who have been exposed to one or more of adverse childhood experiences or the ACEs. And so for those of you who may have heard this term before or may not have heard this term before, when we're talking about ACEs, those are experiences like poverty or abuse or neglect or exposure to food insecurity or housing instability. And when people are exposed to those experiences over time, this can lead to toxic stress. And that is what you can see on our graphic here. This is a graphic that comes from the Center on the Developing Child out of Harvard University. And we will share the link to all of this research as well if it's something that you want to look more into later on. But what I like about this graphic, it's just a little reminder for us that when we do have that excessive activation of the stress response system, that can lead to long-lasting wear and tear on the body and brain. And that effect would be similar to revving a car engine for days or weeks at a time. Right? And toxic stress can manifest in a variety of ways. It can look like anxiety, it can look like impulsivity, it can look like aggression or regression of skills, and there could be physical symptoms as well. And toxic stress can also lead to the underdevelopment of social competence. So
And
before,
Maggie, oh,
Mhm.
I
Go
just
ahead.
wanted to point out that I really like this slide because I think metaphors really help us learn and keep things in our brain if we think of the metaphor. And that's why I like when you guys do this one, because correlating it to like an engine running over time without any maintenance just loses. So sorry if I interrupted the rest of
No,
what I wanted to
no,
say.
no, that's totally fine. And I just, again, we're sharing this in the chat. So if this is the quickest overview on brain development, but again, just keeping in mind this process is interactive. Children are dependent on their adults and caregivers to learn social skills and social competence. And we have to keep in mind there's factors that could affect brain development.
Okay. And along with thinking about brain development and ACEs and stress levels, we also are just putting in here a good reminder about resilience. So we know that children can become resilient if they have at least one stable and committed relationship, and that could be you. It could be you as their classroom teacher, and along maybe with other adults in the room. So we know that the relationships that you build with children really can make a difference, even though on some days it might not feel that way, but you are making a difference and creating that resilience.
And like Tammy mentioned earlier, one of the ways that we can really help children to build resilience is through that process of co-regulation. So if you look at, I'm sorry, I'm getting tangled up in my cord, sorry. If you look at the graphic here, the co-regulation is in the middle of the graphic. And it's, again, as a reminder, this means when someone can find and maintain regulation with the support and assistance of an outside person. And ultimately, what we hope is that is going to lead to self-regulation. But co-regulation is an interactive process between adults and children in which adults are supporting a child's regulation by modeling, by coaching, by providing feedback to children, and structuring the environment in a way that supports children. And again, after many of these co-regulating experiences, we're hoping that children do develop self-regulation. But self-regulation, successful co-regulation, these words start to blend together, I'm sorry. Successful co-regulation requires adults to be emotionally regulated and requires adults to be self-aware. So we're going to be talking a lot about that this evening. When we do think about when we do think about adult emotional regulation and this idea specifically of self-awareness, this might be a term you hear a lot if you have experience or any information about the pyramid model or powerful interactions. These are both concepts that are introduced in those frameworks, and we will be talking a little bit from that perspective as well as we move ahead. But with pyramid, they refer to the self-awareness as like the hot buttons, recognizing hot buttons. And with powerful interactions, it's more focus. They refer to this as being present, quieting your static. So we'll talk more as we move ahead. Okay, and another little graphic that that we like, we use this one a lot. Um, But I think this really brings the concept home about the importance of that co-regulating relationship. The top line is the ideal. This is what we want to see happen, where we have a regulated, an emotionally regulated adult who is able to support a child in regulating their emotions, and that can result in a regulated child. This second cursor moving. Oh, here we go. Our second graphic up here, we have a regulated adult with a dysregulated child. But again, through that process of coaching, providing feedback, modeling, that regulated adult can help regulate the child's emotional well-being, and that can result in a regulated child. Consider these. I always say, I always say these are like little warning arrows. That this is what we don't want to see. This is when we have a dysregulated adult who is not able to regulate their emotions. They can't successfully help a child regulate their emotions. So a dysregulated adult and a dysregulated child will end with a dysregulated child. And then again, if we have a dysregulated adult, their dysregulation can negatively impact a regulated child's emotions, which can result in a dysregulated child. So just a handy little graphic. If you want to take a screenshot of this, I like having this handy whenever we're thinking about co-regulation.
Well, and I like the little tornadoes.
Yeah. Yes, it really brings it home.
Yeah. Okay. So right now, we're just doing a quick check-in. I know we're new into our training, but we like to do a waterfall chat. And how we do this is I want you to think about an emotion word that describes your feelings, maybe during an interaction that you might have with a child who's presenting some big behaviors or challenges to you. Think of one emotion word that kind of happens for you and get that set in your mind. You can type it in, but don't press send yet. So I'm going to pause here and give you a moment to think about the emotions that happen for you when you're thinking about dealing with this. Have it in the chat, but don't press send yet. Give everybody a chance to come up with their emotion word. And you can be very creative with your emotion word, meaning there's so many emotion words in there. So you can pick a really good one. And I'll count to let you know when we hit send, and we'll just see a cascade, a waterfall. Okay, everyone. So before we do that, take an inhale, exhale, open mouth breath. All right, now hit send. Oh, here they come. Wow, they're coming. Sadly defeated, depleted,
Oh,
exhaustion, frustrated, anger, stressed. Oh, wow. Yes, tired. Angie, yes, it gets you really
done.
tired. Done.
Confused.
Yes,
Oh, that's a
Diana.
good one.
Confused. Yes. Confused, because where do I go from here? Aggressive and or destructive behavior, confused. I always talk with other teachers and students that I teach in community college. I always say to them, part of our work is we're like the detectives to figure out what's going behind that big behavior. And so all of your words of description really fit if we were detectives in the true sense of the word, but we are detectives every day. This might be how we feel when we can't get to the root of what might be causing it. Tanisha got that one in there of exasperated. Okay, thank you.
There you go. This might be how you felt. Um, we know that that children have better outcomes when they are in classrooms with emotionally supportive teachers, when we have children who are working with emotionally regulated adults. But I want you to look at some of um, the bullets, the two bullets on our screen here. So at the bottom or at the top here, research indicates that early childhood professionals may experience higher than average workplace stress, depression, and poor job satisfaction. So I will connect after we move ahead. I will share this link with you so you have this as well. This information comes from the Social Emotional Teaching and Learning Lab from UIC. So really, this is a bit of a problem, though, if we think about it. So we do need adults to be emotionally regulated, but we're also experiencing higher levels of stress, and so this poses a bit of a challenge. And this is where I just want to connect back briefly to the session one of the trickle down effect, because Tammy and I, when we were designing the content for tonight, we don't see this being something that teachers do in isolation. Like, we don't expect teachers to just handle all of their emotional load alone, right? Like, ideally, what we are hoping is that we do have program wide social emotional supports for adults, that there are practices in place where teachers do have opportunities to connect with colleagues and to reflect back on challenging situations, and that when we do have those social emotional practices program wide, that lends itself to better implementation of some of the classroom practices that we're going to be introducing tonight. Um, Tammy, did you want to add anything there before we move ahead?
Um, just you kind of said it, but just really know you're not in this alone. Please don't ever feel you're in this alone. You've got colleagues to talk with. And I know sometimes it can feel frightening because we feel a little bit vulnerable if we don't have all the answers to how could we help or support a child. But none of us have all the answers. That's why it's really important to reach out if you need the support with things going on in your classroom. Asking for help is such a great thing that you can do for yourself and the children.
And we are going to jump into some practices that you can implement on your own. That's going to be our first content here tonight. Um, you notice our little guy on the screen here. So this is part of the adult's emotional regulation, that part of the equation here. So this is going to be a practice that is intended for regulating your own emotions. Some of you might be familiar with this, this first activity. This comes from Powerful Interactions. Um, I am going to ask you just to do this with me in the chat. I'm going to read you a little paragraph just to kind of give you an idea of what this is, and then I'm going to give you some questions to respond to. Okay. So again, from Powerful Interactions. Imagine your personal energy as filling an 8-ounce cup. Whatever your day's activities, whether you try waking up earlier or staying up later, you only have 8 ounces. That's all you get. Now imagine you're starting your day. After a good night's sleep, let's say your cup of energy is 2/3 filled. A healthy breakfast and your favorite song on the radio, add another quarter cup. Maybe your cup gets topped off by a big hug from your spouse or a smile from your daughter as she gets on the bus. So off you go to work. Then you step in a puddle on the driveway, in your new shoes, or get caught in traffic, or remember that you left your lunch bag on the kitchen counter. You're still on your way to work, but some of your energy may already be draining away. Throughout the day, some people and some situations can deplete your energy, and others can energize you and refill your cup. So, just a way for us to really think about how we're coming into our day and all of those things. It feels like a whole day can happen sometimes before you even get into work. So I just want to ask you this just to have you answer in the chat, if you will. If you could list some of those events or some of those experiences that might deplete your energy. You could think about today or another day earlier in the week, but what are some of those things you experienced that drained your energy? And you don't have to wait for me. This isn't a waterfall. You could just put it in. Being busy, forget your phone, keys, not enough time in the day,
Uh, um,
running late.
Maggie, I just want to mention Anna listed probably something that fills her day, and it was good music.
Okay, that's going to be my next question, Anna. So these are some of those experiences that might drain your energy. And I was thinking about this for myself, and I have to say, like, it's getting stuck in traffic, getting stuck by a freight train. I don't know why, but that really always throws me off in the mornings. Bad weather, rushing, negativity from coworkers, never
Tanisha
seems to be
forgot
enough
her work
time.
key card.
Oh gosh, yes. So it's a lot, there's a lot of things that can deplete our energy, and these are all things that could happen to you even before you get into work. And then the second part of this, oversleeping, yes. Thinking about what are some of those experiences and activities that help refill your energy. Prayer and meditation, listening to good music, laughter, family time, a good snack. Yeah, spending time with grandkids, coworkers, a smile from my boss. Every morning I start with coffee. Me too. That does it for me too. A quiet few moments before class starts, a smile from the children, time with friends, going for a walk outside. All right. So that's another one for me too. Like for me, if I need to like just recharge, going outside, being in nature, being in the sun, things like that can really help me as well. But the idea behind this, if you haven't put this together, which I assume many of you have, but this is a really short, quick practice that you can engage in. Just taking a couple minutes if you want to write it down like we did today, if you want to dedicate a journal, like however it works best for you, or even if it's just you're sitting maybe a couple minutes before the day starts with your coffee or your tea, and you're just sort of thinking about this. Like if you are sitting there realizing you're very stressed out and you can say, oh, this happened and this happened and this happened. I got stuck by the train. I forgot my keys and I couldn't find a uniform and I overslept. All those things are happening. Just acknowledging them is a really important first step. But then also thinking about that second part, like what are some of those little activities? And some of these are so simple, right? Some of those things that can help recharge you before you move on with your day. So this is a practice you could do 1 to 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be every day, but when you feel like you need it. And again, it could be writing, it could just be thinking or talking with a colleague.
Okay. Oh, this is more leading to self-awareness. You're probably hearing a lot of talk, a lot of classroom staff are talking about hot buttons, and we all have them. They're kind of those behaviors, they're not kind of, they are those behaviors where children, it can really raise anxiety or stress for you, or all those emotions you listed earlier. And it might just be something that really bothers you. And we all have them. Everybody does. And there's no judgment about them. We just have them. It's part of our temperament and different things in life that can bother us because we're human. So you have to think about what your hot spot is and then become aware of it, be aware of it, and then decide, gosh, how do I want to react to this big hot spot or feeling I have when I see a child maybe doing a big behavior or something that I typically know is hard for me. So there's a couple different ways to kind of practice for your self-awareness. First thing that really works well is just pause and stop. Don't let anything come out of your mouth just yet. The only time something like stop may come out of your mouth is if it's a dangerous situation. But if it's something that's not dangerous, you can say like pause, you can pause and stop. Again, taking that inhale and an open mouth exhale. And take as many breaths as you need. There's no rule on a certain amount of breath. It's what is best to bring your anxiety and create calmness for you within your own body. Remember that you're the adult. I always, when I'm working with people, or even when I'm working with children that have big behaviors, I say to myself, okay, I am this age and I've been on this earth for a really long time. You know, I've been on this earth at least more than 44 years because I've told you how long I've been in this field. So, and then I look to the 3-year-old or 4-year-old or 5-year-old or younger or older, and I'll say, gosh, they've only been on this earth 3 years. They've still got a lot of learning yet. Now I have to remember that I'm the adult. We also have to remember that it will pass, things will pass. And another time you may see that child doing that really big behavior. And the next time you see them, they're helping a friend or they're sitting quietly and, working with the Play-Doh or looking at a book. So there's always those quiet moments for those children as well. Remember, the child may also have many positive strengths. Just like I mentioned, I was in a classroom today and one little girl was really, really active and kind of just was having trouble with her own regulation. But then in the next minute, I saw her helping 3 of her friends in the classroom, making room for them, getting them a chair. So knowing that even though she has some trouble with self-regulation, she also has really positive strengths of really wanting to care for others. We talked about this in a previous slide. Ask for help. You are never alone. Okay, remember that you're never alone. Ask for help. And it's okay sometimes to be vulnerable and need that help. And so I hope some of these things will help you when you're in that moment, whichever one works best for you, to kind of have that in there when your hot button decides to start flashing. And this is a really important thing for all of us to do for the children in our room, our adults we work with in the classroom, the adults in the other classrooms, your own family. We kind of have to look at ourselves as like a piggy bank. And all day, people could be putting some deposits into you as your bank account, or they could be taking out withdrawals. Kind of think of yourself as a bank account and the children. And we want to really work to continue to build positive relationships with the children and the families, because those are really good deposits into them. And some simple examples, which I know many of you already do, those positive notes home, those soliciting of advice from families. Families, even though you might not feel like this all the time, they admire you. because they realize you have specialized training in certain things that they don't. So they do admire that. So when you ask them for advice, they're probably like, "Oh wow, they want to know what I think." And that's really goes a long way as a withdrawal into somebody's bank account, virtual bank account of their feelings. Really listening to children and families. Sometimes it can be hard to be an active listener because you're already formulating maybe how you might want to respond. But it goes back to what Maggie said earlier about clearing the static in your head. High fives go a long way, or even, high five in space. Maybe you don't touch hands, but it's a high five in the space. Thumbs up. And one of the ratios we really want to consider, and you'll hear a lot about this in the pyramid model framework, is that it takes 5 positive things to get rid of 1 withdrawal. So it's a 5-to-1 ratio. So we do know inevitably you will have to say a negative thing to a child because they can't scribble all over your classroom walls. So you have to redirect them to a better way to use the markers or whatever's going on. So it's just kind of thinking all of the many things people in our lives, our colleagues, families, children, that they do right. And then Maggie's going to move us to our next slide.
Yes. So this brings us to the next part. Up until this point, we've really been talking about the adult role here, managing adult emotional regulation and some of those simple practices to really engage in that self-awareness, like the coffee cup thinking, the hot buttons reflection. This next part is really, we're going to be switching to the middle here, which is that intentional planning and strategy. So these are going to be a little bit more of those classroom style of strategies that you can implement. And so now you will see this little graphic on the corner of your screens.
Okay, so this is all about things that you can do in the classroom with the children throughout the entire day. So I have all these kind of fun breathing strategies that I've learned over time with teaching children's yoga and just in my learnings. And some of them you may know, and I'd like to share them with you. So I'm going to encourage you to please do them with me because there's a strong connection between the mind and the body and the breath. And if you do it with me, you're more likely to remember them later when you want to use them. So we have this fabulous graphic on here. As you can see, it starts out really small, it's shrinking. So that's our inhale, taking its time. There's the whole inhale. And the exhale is the collapse. So let me do a couple of these breaths with you. Some I'm going to just sit and some I'm going to stand. So if you can't, I'm going to make it so you can see me pretty well. And hopefully you can see me in your little box, or you could put me on presenter's view if you want. So here we go. I'm going to show you some of these and please do them with me. This first one is lion's breath. And if any of you have children's yoga books in your classroom, you are going to know this is such a real popular breath in yoga. And it is a yoga, definitely a yoga named breath. So how I use it with the kids is first I have them create their mane, their lion's mane. So you can get your arms there. Oh, Jamie, I think Jane, thank you. I see those lion's ears of yours. Great. And I see Maggie's too. So here's your mane. Actually, it's mane, not lion's ears, but your lion's ears are there. So we're going to inhale Now, the part we're going to do next is when you exhale, you're going to bug out your eyes and stick out your tongue to me. So here, let's do that again. Inhale. Now, the scary thing is you have to see my tongue and my bugged out eyes if you don't have your video going where I can see you. So let's do that one more time so you get that. Okay, here's your lion's mane. Oh, Scott, are you going to do it with us? I see Scott. Okay. Inhale. Excellent. Now, the next one does work really well standing, and that's dragon's breath. So get your dragon wings ready. Oh, yeah. Oh, Karen is getting them ready. I see. Okay, so inhale. Now you're going to exhale your fire out. Oh, Karen, she had some massive fire going on there. Okay, inhale. Excellent. Here's a one I really like. It's the snake one, so you can get your bodies really wiggly. Get in the practice, get the bodies kind of wiggly. Oh, you guys are doing it. Scott, I'm kind of waiting. Scott's just smiling at me like, oh, I don't know, Tammy. Okay. And so get your snake ready. So you inhale, wiggly snake. Inhale, and here comes the snake. Let's do that again. Inhale, snake. Excellent. Okay. You are really doing well with lion's breath, dragon breath, and snake breath. Now, the cat breath, this is just a little side note for adults, but the children love it but sometimes at the end of the day, maybe a colleague said something to you or things didn't go well with something and you're kind of frustrated. This one you could do personally in your own car on the way home, or if you get a family member makes you mad when you're private by yourself. This is the cat one. So I just laugh because you'll see why. So here comes the cat breath. We get our paws and claws ready. Inhale. And so that's that one. Do that private one, when you're really upset with somebody. But however, if you want to do it with the cats, you can get paws up, inhale with the kids, inhale. And you could either do or you could do this, inhale and go meow. So you could have choices there, but you could save that snarly one whenever you're having a bad day and you need private release of anger or frustration. Okay, we have more. All right, so here we go. What I want to show you before I go into the rest of the breathing strategies is take a look at the person in this video. That is called a Hoberman sphere. And you'll know it's a ball, and some of you may already have this in your classroom, but I like to use it because it's tiny, but you open it up, you can grasp on it, open up. See the inhale, inhale, and then when it close it up, that's the exhale. But it helps kids understand, how our breathing works. We're expanding in our tummy area, and when we exhale, it shrinks back down. But it's a really great tool. I use it. I even use it with adults to help them understand the breathing. And it's called a Hoberman sphere. Oh, Angie uses it right before the kids, probably before story time, she says. Where do you get this again in the name? It looks
I
like Maggie put it in there for
I
you.
just found one on Lakeshore. So
Yeah,
it's
that's where I got mine, Lakeshore. So it's a great tool to help with breathing and even just, visual slowing down. So let's do balloon breath. Now, I wish I was in person with you because I can get a little wacky with balloon breath with the kids. I'll tell you my final destination, but you won't be able to see me. But with balloon breath, we pretend we're balloons. So we're going to inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. And now, when balloons let out their air, which would be our exhale, we kind of wiggle around like a balloon does. Think of yourself as a balloon. Where are my people? Okay, I see you. Jane's going for it. Now, what I do, I get really dramatic and I go all the way down to the floor. Because in the end, when a balloon loses its air, it's going down to the ground. So that's what you wouldn't be able to see me, so it wouldn't have the same effect. All right, here's volcano breath. So we squat down because we're squatting down in our volcano. So we're going to inhale and let the lava out. Let's do that again. Inhale, squatting down, and let the lava out. And sometimes it's all about the sound effects, everyone, too. But you'll notice as you let that sound effect out and that air out, that was a really nice, good, deep breath. Oh, good. Allie, you just did volcano breath with your daughter. Yay. Okay, I'm trying to think of sometimes I just make breaths up too at the spur of the moment. So a lot of you are very creative. So thinking spur of the moment, one time I did a rocket ship. So we just kind of did a pointed cone and we were down on the ground and we got our rocket fuel ready and we were doing 3, 2, 1, inhale, blast off. So be creative with all the different things you do in the classroom. So the next one, tug of war, tends to be better maybe with the older 4s, 5s, and beyond, or even just for you. So what you do is, I'm just showing you my left hand, and I'm going to take my right hand, and I'm laying them on top of each other for now. But I'm going to do a finger lock. So I'm locking my fingers together, and here they're like, a little bit about under my chin, and my arms are straight. And so I take an inhale, and when I exhale, I try to pull my hands apart. And that's just a nice stress releaser in the shoulders. It feels tight at first, but then when you release. And just for yourself, if you decide to ever do that stretch for you, just do both sides. Use both hands. It won't matter as much for the children as it's nice for you as adults to be even on both sides. All right, the next one I like to do is the water sponge squeeze. So imagine in our right hand, ooh, we've got a really soaked sponge full of water. And so we're going to raise it up high. We're going to inhale. And as we exhale, we're going to squeeze the water out of it. Remember, it's all about the sound effects. Left arm, because I don't want you to be uneven. Now this you want to do both sides with the kids. Wet sponge. We're going to inhale. Squeeze out the water. Okay, great. Now I have one more thing I want to do with you on this slide, and it's called the worry ball. So I use this a lot. Children do have worries, everyone, just as adults do. Even children 3 and under can have worries. They might not be able to articulate them, but everyone has worries. So, how the worry ball works is I'm going to tell you my worry in my pretend ball, and then I'm going to throw it to one of you. And by the wonderfulness of me observing, I have written down some people's names of who I'm going to throw the worry ball to. Although Jane's been really active, and so is Patricia, and there was another, and Karen. So I may throw them to you guys because you're looking lively tonight. So when I do the worry ball, I use either a soft ball, meaning not soft like we play baseball with, but the gushy kind. Or I just use an air ball. So I'm gonna state my worry and I'm gonna get rid of this worry and I'm gonna throw it to Jane. And then Jane will state her worry and throw it to Patricia and so forth. And Patricia will throw it to Karen. And then Karen, I need you to throw it to Maggie. And then Maggie will say her worry, and then I'll tell Maggie what to do with the ball. And this is just to help guide children and people about being present. So get ready. Jane, can you carry it? Because it's going to be flying. Oh, I didn't tell you my worry though. Whew, you know what my worry is? I'm getting my taxes done Saturday and I have to organize my paperwork. I'm, fairly organized, but it's, making sure I got every last detail ready. Yikes. So that is my worry for the remainder of this week. So here's my ball. Get ready, Jane. It's going a distance. And you can do sound effects. She caught it. Okay,
Right.
Jane.
Um, my worries, I've got a lot going on. My sons have a bunch of lacrosse games and a lot of tutoring going on right now, and we are getting ready to go away on Saturday. We have to pack, and there's just a lot going on, and I don't think I have enough time to get it all done.
Oh my gosh, it does sound a lot.
So I'm going to toss
Get
it to
rid of that
Patricia.
worry because you can't do anything about it now.
Nope.
Throw it to Patricia. Patricia, did you catch it?
I got it.
Okay.
So my worry is very similar to Jane's. We are leaving in a little over a week to go to my son's wedding in Argentina, and we have to get ready for that. So
Yeah, that's
um,
big. And
it's a lot of little details.
oh wow, you guys are busy. Um,
So
Patricia, throw that ball to Karen. Karen, catch it. Okay, Karen's gonna unmute and tell us her worry.
We have dance competition and recital this weekend here. So getting everything ready and just having things going with the kids just coming back from spring break. So it's just been in the rain today. Miss Karen is kind of soggy still.
Yeah, and I know Karen, and Karen, I was in Joliet today and it was awful with the rain.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
All
Karen,
right, are you ready, Maggie?
yeah, there you go.
Okay, my worry is really just busy schedule, getting everything done just like everybody else. I think that's good. That could be our common worry for this group, probably.
Okay, now Maggie, the point of the worry ball is we can't do anything about our worry right now, but really enjoy the time we're together and explaining to the children, let's try to enjoy our time together. So Maggie's going to take our worry ball and she's going to throw it in her garbage can over there.
Okay.
There it went.
And done. Do you do that for real with a real ball, Tammy? Have you
I
ever
do it with oh, you mean throw it out?
like throw it in the garbage or
No,
no?
no, no. We throw it like in the hallway or we,
There you go.
put it somewhere where we know we can't see it. We know we can't do anything about it.
All right.
Yeah. And because it helps for being present too. So thank you to all our people sharing their worries and just demonstrating the worry ball. So I think I have another slide. Oh, yes, this is a great one. Oh, all right. This is something you can incorporate with the children and do for yourself every morning when you get up. Oh, thank you for enjoying the worry ball exercise. Okay. So this is the 5 movements of the spine. If you are able as an adult to do this for yourself before in the morning, it's really going to wake up your spine and you are going to feel really good. And do know that as soon as humans begin to walk, thinking of our toddlers and twos and beyond and your preschoolers, they can do these. So we're going to do, I encourage you to do this with me. You will feel better. So first we're going to inhale and we're going to lengthen our spine. You're going to become really tall. Some people think of it as the good morning stretch. Yay. Now we'll exhale and you can go down as far as is good for you, or you can keep your hands on your table, your desk table, and just stretch, or go all the way down to the ground for a forward fold. Okay, now inhale all the way back up. And believe it or not, our spines were meant to do back bends. Look at your fingertips. And exhale and just stretch back. And everybody's backward bend will be what's appropriate for them. And inhale back up. Grab your left wrist. This is a lateral stretch. We don't have many opportunities to move our body in this way daily. But inhale, stretch tall. Exhale over to your right side. Inhale back up. Grab the right wrist and exhale over to the left. And inhale up. Hands on your shoulders. Now do know if you as an adult are working with a chiropractor or a doctor and they told you not to do spinal rotation, you know you will listen to your medical staff. But hands on your shoulder, hips forward, and feet on the ground. And we're just going to rotate at a nice speed for you. And don't be surprised if you heard any little cracklings. Sometimes you will hear that. So those are the 5 movements of the spine. Really good, healthy moves for you and the kids to keep your day going well. All right, we have the next thing. Oh, this is a great fun way to do movements with the spine with children. And when I call out ingredients, if any of you want to come off mute and just shout something out, that's way appropriate because that's how this goes. We're going to make a smoothie. So get ready. Right now, we are the blending machine. So take your lid off, and sound effects are wonderful. All right. Now, what do we want in our smoothie? I'll start us off with some almond milk. What else? Somebody's got to tell me some things. You can come off mic. It's okay. We're a friendly crew.
Blueberries.
Blueberries.
Strawberries.
Strawberries. Get them all in there.
Chia.
Bananas.
Bananas. Thank you, Melissa.
That's saying
More.
ice.
Ice. What else do we want? That's it.
Eat it.
And you know that the kids will shout out all kinds of great things to you.
I
They'll
like
probably say
cinnamon
ice
on
cream,
mine.
chocolate.
Cinnamon. Yeah.
Cinnamon. Yay. Okay. So we got our ingredients in there. Put your lid back on. I'm making a sound effect with my mouth, but I don't know if you can hear me. Okay. Now, oh gosh, it's the great mix up. Hips forward again and make really good sound effects. Here we go. Woo! Take the lid off. Now you've become a person with your big smoothie cup in front of you. It's all right. Get ready. You're going to drink your smoothie. Here we go, guys. Glug, 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 glug. Rub your tummy. That was spectacular. What a great smoothie. Another really great activity you could do with the kids, and I love Beat the Drum. It's a Tai Chi move, and it is really good for calming the nervous system. So it's when you're doing it with the children, you have to remind them to have their personal space because we are just going to move our hands, you know, we're going to let our hands fling as we twist our upper spine. So our hips are to the ground, our feet are to the ground, our hips are squared forward, and we're just swinging our arms. And you can also do it where they touch their shoulder and their back if you're worried about space. But it's a really nice beginning strategy for a Tai Chi move. And I especially like it because it calms the nervous system. Okay. I may have one more slide I'm supposed to do next. Oh, this Maggie's going to take us forward on this slide.
Okay. This is a little bit different, but this is also an activity that you would do with children during a group meeting. If any of you are familiar with this or have heard of variations, definitely feel free to come off of mute or share them in the chat. But the silence game from Montessori, it's also called Making Silence, is an activity where you literally lead children through being silent. So it's sitting together on the carpet. It's practicing like closing your eyes, keeping your body still, and being as still and quiet as you can be as a group, starting with these like small increments of time, like maybe 30 seconds or so, and then building up gradually over the course of the year. And so there are a couple of variations that I just wanted to share with you. This is a Montessori game that my children did when they were in preschool and kindergarten at their school. And they always started this by singing like a little song or chant. And it was really simple. I asked them to remind me of it. So I know the words and I'll share it with you. They would always start by sitting in the circle like the picture shows. And they would say, I'm sitting straight and tall. My hands are on my lap. I can close my eyes and be very, very still. And then they would sit there for as long as their teacher thought that they could. And then when they were ready to move on, she would ring a little bell. And it was just the way to like sort of close out their day. This is usually how they ended their meeting before they went home for the day. There's also a variation that I had heard about. I actually haven't seen this in practice, but it kind of relates back to some of those breathing exercises that Tammy introduced earlier. And it's the same idea, leading children through this like silent practice, but the teacher would use a bell to indicate like when they take breaths. And so the way that she would do this is she would ring the bell and she'd say, smell the flower, and everybody would smell the flower. And then they would hold their breath for a couple of seconds and she would ring the bell again and everybody would exhale because she would say, blow out the candle. And so it's just a way to sort of like lead them in a quiet breathing exercise. So have any of you heard of this or seen this in action before? I'm not seeing anybody. It is really cool. I know what I've heard of this is that this all came about because Maria Montessori, there was a teacher who'd had a newborn. Oh, somebody's saying yes, a newborn that they brought into the classroom, and the adults asked the children, like, can we be as still and quiet as this baby who is sleeping? And then this practice of making silence or playing the silence game emerged from there. So it's really, really neat. And it's a great way to help children like practice that quiet stillness and just help to calm before moving on to a new activity. Oh, smell the flower and blow the pinwheel. So another variation too.
And I just want to comment,
Oh, cool, Anna.
Maggie, on silence is really important for all of us, the children and the adults, because our world is so hurried at times that sometimes just sitting in silence for a moment can just have a really great effect on our whole body system.
Absolutely. Okay, Tammy, moving on.
Oh gosh. So this was so interesting how this came to me. Planning for timely topics with intention. So I want to tell you that it was like last spring before the cicadas were going to come. And as I was talking to teachers and college students, they were getting in all kinds of angst about the cicadas and, oh, what's it going to be like? And and some people were like, oh, it's going to be so interesting and exciting. And others were like, oh, I'm not going to like that. And I noticed how much fear was happening for the adults and children's lives around cicadas. So I started talking with adults working with children on maybe start reading. There were a couple like children's books that came out about cicadas. So trying to get themselves more comfortable about cicadas and the children more comfortable. So it's, I'm going to give a couple other ideas too. We also, in the fall, when we were doing this for the administrators, it was right around the time of the California wildfires. So again, thinking of ways, how can we, add calmness or add explanation in a appropriate preschool or younger way for children so they understand these different episodes that kind of happen that we see in the media or we see in the changes of the season. And as we were creating it, remember that 1 week, everyone, where in one day we had winter and spring in the same day? It like snowed, and then all of a sudden it was just, and kind of talking about these phenomena with children. And that's why we have the pictures of the roses there with snow on them. It reminded us of that day. It was like in March when we had all that interesting weather of the ups and downs. So just thinking that topics that are coming up in time can really affect the children and us. And how can we plan for it with intention?
And these are just some good reminders for really everything that we've talked about today. Remembering to do one thing at a time, slowing down, beginning each activity by breathing. Sorry, I'm reading these off the screen. You can see up here too. But take one gentle inhalation followed by a calm exhalation. And I learned this from Tammy, that inhaling gives you energy and exhaling calms you down. I'm gonna skip this part for now, the cultivating gratitude. We're gonna talk about that a little bit later, and just for the sake of time. But again, this idea of the whole classroom brain break, I think we gave you maybe a couple of ideas of how that could look, whether it's like playing the silence game or doing some of those breathing activities, but really bringing everybody together to help like recenter before you move on. I also wanted to just draw your attention to the side over here, this little book, the Catch a Breath book. If any of you are interested, this is from a workshop series that I did with one of our colleagues in the coaching program. I think it was about 2 years ago. And this little booklet, we developed it to go along with the series where we focused on strategies to support adult emotional regulation and also children and classroom strategies. So on one side, we would have the adult activity, and then the other side was how you could adapt it for use with children and in the classroom. So it's just very similar to some of the ideas we've discussed today, but if any of you are interested, feel free to contact me through email or post it in the chat and I can try and get you a copy.
Okay, and just a reminder about the equation. So far, the time we've been with you, we were trying to set up about adults' emotional regulation and how important that is, and then adding intentional planning and strategies will equal us helping the children to form their social competence. I see that a lot of people are putting, they would like one of the booklets. Virginia and Katie, if you could put your emails in there too. All right. More thinking about self-awareness in your environment. And this is different things you can do to help yourself in your environment. Maybe you have a place that you can go in your home or somewhere else that you like to go, where there's dim lighting, comfortable seating, creating a space where there's spa music or white noise. Maybe you want to have an essential oil diffuser, any place where you can have some me time. I saw in the chat earlier that someone talked about they make sure it to fill their cup that they plan me time.
Mhm.
Remember, nature is so effective in helping us really regulate a lot of our body systems. And plants and fish or any other natural objects in your spaces, just really, just even by looking at them, creates that memory of what it's like to feel that.
Another one of these like full equation strategies, something that you can use for yourself, for your own self-awareness practice, your own reflection practice, is journaling, but also something that we can adapt for children. But I just wanted to share this. If you look through these bullets, these are just some of the benefits of journaling. While you're reading, I'm going to post the resource for this in case you want to read more about it. This is from the benefits are from a site called Prosper in the UK. And let me just get this in here for you. So this will be in the chat if you wanted to read a little bit more about this. But some of the research around journaling has shown that it really helps reduce stress. It improves overall well-being, improves, you'll see, emotional regulation. It can help increase mindfulness. And there's a second slide of benefits too, improves memory and also better problem-solving skills. So again, thinking about this from like the adult emotional regulation standpoint, this is going to look differently than how you might use this with children. For adults, really just having like setting, again, kind of like that idea of the powerful interactions, like cup, what fills your cup, and the energy reflection. This is sort of the same thing. If you're giving yourself time to dedicate maybe a couple minutes a day, maybe a couple times a week, just to really reflect and think about what's going on. It doesn't have to be anything specific. It could just be writing down some events of your day. But again, it's kind of putting the intention behind the practice. So giving yourself, I think, what did you say, Tammy? Somebody referred to it as like setting aside me time. This
Yeah.
could fall in that category for sure. Just giving yourself a prompt or a thought, a timer, a couple of minutes just to write down how you're feeling. And it can really help you process some of those challenging emotions, but also kind of recharge you as well. And then when we're thinking about a strategy like this for children, so many of you are probably already doing it. Like I'm sure there's many of you who are using journals regularly with in your classrooms. So a way to sort of connect it to that social emotional teaching and learning is to give a prompt. So having children think about or write about their feelings. It could be drawing, it could be, whatever, and just giving them a little bit of a guide in that sense. But you could also use this as a way to sort of close out your week. So if you are doing journals on Fridays, just asking children like, what was your favorite thing today, or something like that. So again, sort of guiding them through the process with a simple prompt.
And we always like to really think about a really simple thought. Bottom line, nothing gets done without relationships. And really, we're in the relationship business, but creating intentional relationships and intentional learning experiences. So, and one key component of relationship building is deep listening to children and families and colleagues.
I love that little picture.
Yeah, I do
So
too.
cute. I feel like we have some good pictures in this presentation. And then just we wanted to leave you with some like an extension. If you wanted, we have been sharing some links with you in the chat if you wanted to look into any of the, the resources we shared with you tonight, but also the one resource we have used a lot, and we mention it a lot tonight, is that Powerful Interactions book. So I'm going to come back to this in just a second. But these are really some of the strategies that they recommend for connecting. So this very much relates to really everything that we've talked about tonight. Just some reminders for us about slowing down, staying in the moment. Again, this is also referred to as quieting your static or practicing self-awareness. Other ways to connect, keep learning about children, listening to children, personalizing your interaction. So really, like all of this happens, I think, pretty naturally for us if we are present, if we're not like working on autopilot and we're able to really sit and talk and listen and kind of really engage in a positive way with the children in our classrooms, showing respect, guiding behavior, and keep trust going. And then just this was our one little reminder. I'm glad you included this, Tammy, respecting a rejection, because
Yeah.
sometimes we might try to engage with a child and they just for one reason or another don't want to, and that is okay. So it's just a little bit of a reminder for us that it's something we don't want to lose sight of. And this is the newest edition of the series. And also we wanted to mention, if this is, if some of these powerful interactions, ideas, and activities that we shared with you tonight were interesting to you, we do have on the ECPL YouTube channel, I think that we have the Powerful Interactions 6-part series available. So it's something that you could watch those or sign up for. I don't know if there's any more that are being offered, but they would be available as recordings. Oh, thank you, Karen. Karen just posted the link in the chat too.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. So the magic begins with you, and then the children can thrive. So remembering, going back to that, the co-regulation, which then if children have enough experiences with co-regulation, they can begin the process of their own self-regulation.
And that is it for us.
Oh, is that the end?
That is, yes. Does
So-
anybody have any questions for us or any comments, anything else that you wanted us to elaborate on?